Hey, welcome to another week of A Deeper Dive. This is week 3, I believe, of this. And every week I take some time just to kind of upload a short video to talk a little bit more about either a passage that we covered real briefly on Sunday, or maybe something that we didn't get to really dive into at all. The book of Luke that we're studying right now is a long book. And so it would take us a long time to get through the whole thing if we were to go bit by bit, verse by verse. And so instead, what we're doing is kind of doing some chunks on Sunday mornings. And then if there are things that maybe I didn't get to cover on Sunday, or if I want to go a little bit deeper, then we do that here in the deeper dive. And so this is week 3, like I said. This past Sunday was a good Sunday. And I there were several things that I talked about on Sunday. It was funny because as I was preaching, excuse me, for one thing, my iPad did not die, so that was a really good thing. That was like a win for the day. The second thing is that there were several times throughout my sermon that as I was speaking, the thought crossed my mind, this would have been a good spot for the deeper dive. But unfortunately, you get either to the end of the service or to Monday or even to today, and it's like, what were those things? I can't remember. So I need to figure out a good way to kind of put a little bookmark or highlight or something, so I know these are some spots I need to go back to and talk about. So I will say this: if there are things that we talk about on Sunday, that I preach about, or we cover or we read or whatever on Sunday, that maybe it strikes you and you kind of have questions about, please send me an email, jthompson@smithfieldchristian.com. Send me an email with those questions. I'd love to do my best to try and answer them. Maybe it's from previous weeks, maybe it's from that day, or whatever it might be. Or maybe it's something like later on in the book of Luke. Maybe it's something you've read before and you've had some questions about, and send them to me anyways. And that way, if we don't get to it on Sunday morning, I can kind of put that on my list to make sure that I know to go back and kind of dig into it a little bit deeper. Something that I did kind of mention on Sunday, I talked about a book when I talked about the idea of cheap grace, and how sometimes we cheapen grace by making God's grace and God's forgiveness to us just something that we do, we accept, and it's like, thank you, Jesus, I've been forgiven. Now I'm going to move on with my life as if nothing ever happened. And there was a book that I mentioned called The Cost of Discipleship. And in this book, the author Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he spends some time unpacking what's called the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus' sermon in Matthew 5, 6, and 7, I think it is. And he unpacks it. But before that, he talks about what it means to be a follower of Jesus and this idea of costly grace. I mean, Jesus said, if anybody wants to be my disciple, they have to take up their cross and follow me, or they must die to themselves if they want to find their life, or if they want to save their life, they have to lose their life. Come follow me. And so Bonhoeffer takes some time to unpack that idea. If you're a reader, this would be a great read for you. Now, as you can see, this is an old book. They have newer editions of it, but I bought this one back when I was in college, and it was already kind of beat up. It kind of had a cool look to it, and it's been a book that I've gone back to several times. It's a deep book, okay? I'll tell you that. It's a heavy one. It's not one that's for light reading, but man, it's got some great insights in there, some great challenges in there. I would highly recommend you adding that to your library if you are a reader, or if you want to get deeper into some theology and things like that. So today, I want to kind of hit a section that we're not going to talk about on Sunday morning. It's in Matthew chapter 5. We're going to be in Matthew. We were in the beginning of Matthew 5. I'm looking on my computer here. We were in the beginning of Matthew 5 last week, and then we jumped to the end of Matthew, or kind of in the middle of Matthew 5. But there was a section that we skipped over there, and and by the way, the first few weeks of this series not Matthew. I keep on saying Matthew. It's in Luke. I'm telling you, man, I don't edit these. All right, just put them up here and see what happens. Not Matthew, Luke. In the first several weeks of our series, we're going to kind of go. We're going to have be covering a smaller section of Luke. But then as we get further and further into the book of Luke, we're going to take bigger and bigger jumps and leaps in where we go, because um, we begin to kind of see similar things of Jesus healing people and things like that. And so we're not always going to get into all of those. And so the first few weeks, we're only going to get through the first several chapters, but then after that is when we're really going to start taking some big jumps in the book of Luke. But this coming week, we're going to be skipping over a section that I wanted to just kind of highlight real quick. One of my favorite passages in the book of Luke is in chapter 5, and is a situation where there is a guy, we don't know much about this guy, who is paralyzed. And something that I love about this situation with him is that he's paralyzed. He needs to get to Jesus. So many people know about Jesus, and so he needs to get to Jesus, and his friends get him there. It's in Matthew chapter 5. It starts in verse 17. I'll just read a little section of it. It says, "One day Jesus was teaching, and the Pharisees and the teachers of the law were sitting there. They had come from every village of Galilee and from Judea and Jerusalem. And the power of the Lord was on Jesus to heal the sick. Some men came carrying a paralyzed man on a mat and tried to take him into the house to lay him before Jesus. When they could not find a way to do this because of the crowd, they went up on the roof and lowered him on his mat through the tiles into the middle of the crowd right in front of Jesus." Now, real quick, what I love about this is the passion of this guy's friends to get him to Jesus. Now, I know that real quick, sometimes when we read passages like this, we can kind of sensationalize situations. I've seen videos and even cartoons, kids kind of videos of this where it's like Jesus is in the middle of speaking, and then all of a sudden, pieces of the ceiling start falling all around him as if he has no idea what's going on. More than likely, these guys, these friends, did not just show up and start ripping holes in the roof of this guy's house, and to get their friend in there. That probably wouldn't have gone over very well. They would have gotten in a lot of trouble. Probably would have cost them. Who knows what would have happened? More than likely, they came there and they arranged something. They were trying to get their friend to Jesus, but they just couldn't do it, and so they probably came up with this idea together to get their friend through the roof. That's not the point. My point is, they ripped a hole in their roof, whether they were allowed to or not, because they had to get their friend to Jesus. Something that's always stood out to me, and I believe I've preached on this maybe once or twice here at Smithfield Christian, it's just the desire that this man's friends have to get their friend to Jesus. I think it's a powerful illustration of what we should be doing for others. This man was paralyzed. He couldn't walk to Jesus. He couldn't stand in that line to get up to Jesus, to stand in that crowd to get up to Jesus, to maybe have his turn to see the Master, the Healer, the Savior face to face. And so his friends did something. And we don't even know. Maybe this man didn't even know where he was going. Maybe this man didn't ask his friends. Maybe his friends just said, "We've got to get you there." And friends, you and I bet we have friends in our life. Maybe they don't know that they need Jesus in their life. Maybe they don't know anything about him. Maybe they haven't come to that realization themselves. But we do. We see the paralysis that sin and temptation and struggles have on their life. And we're like, we know the one that could heal this person. We know the one that can break them out of their paralysis. We know the one that can bring them freedom and full life. And friends, you and I, we have a responsibility to get our friends to Jesus, to get our family to Jesus, to get the people around us, the people in our circle of influence to Jesus. Friends, we know the one who can heal. We know the one who can free and save. And so it's up to us to get our friends there. I've heard preachers say, you go to whatever lengths possible, even if it means ripping a hole in your friend's roof. Maybe that's more of just an illustration. But I think you and I, we need to go to great lengths to pray for friends, to pray for people that God would give us opportunities to bring it up in conversations and to bring them there. Not to bait and switch them with something, and not to just get them to come to somewhere for a hobby or just because to guilt them or whatever, but because, man, we know what the kind of life change that we've had, that Jesus has brought about in our life, and we want the same for others. So take some time this week. Maybe this weekend, read through this passage of Luke chapter 5, verses 17 through 26. Maybe read on that on your own. Maybe pray about the people in your life that you need to get to Jesus. Maybe ask God to reveal those people to you of who it is that you could be making a difference like that for, you could be taking to Jesus. I'm looking forward to this Sunday. This is another great passage, couple sections in Luke that we're going to cover. I'm going to say this, that I do my best not to step on toes. I heard a preacher once say, if I'm stepping on your toes, please know that I'm aiming for your heart. And that's me on Sunday. And a lot of times when I'm working on a sermon, I'm kind of thinking through my own perspective, thinking, man, I need to hear this. I need to study this. I need to say this for myself. So a lot of what I'm going to say on Sunday, I think, is aimed at myself, but I believe that there's a lot of people in the same boat as with me, or in the same boat as me, with me. So hope you're there. 11 o'clock, Smithfield Christian Church over on Battery Park Road in Smithfield here, or online at smithfieldchristian.online.church. We will see you there.